There is a specific kind of unease that shows up in almost everyone the moment the days start getting shorter. You can't quite name it. It's not fear of anything in particular. It's just a low hum of dread that arrives with the dark, earlier sunsets, colder air, a strange instinct to check that the doors are locked, the pantry isn't empty, that everyone is accounted for. Most people shrug it off as a mood. It isn't a mood. It's a memory. Not a personal one, a species-wide one buried so deep in our wiring that we no longer recognize it for what it is. Somewhere in you is the echo of a negotiation your ancestors made with winter, tens of thousands of times for tens of thousands of years. And the terms of that negotiation were brutal. Here's the part almost nobody stops to consider. Biologically, we should have lost. The human body is built for warmth. We come from a species that evolved barefoot and thin-skinned under an African sun, no fur worth mentioning, no fat layer thick enough to matter, no built-in defense against real cold. Drop an unprotected human into a freezing night and the body starts failing within hours. And yet, this same fragile, overheating-prone animal didn't just survive winter. It walked into Ice Age Europe. It walked into Siberia. It settled in places where the air itself could stop a heart. Something let a species that was never designed for cold outthink the cold completely. That something wasn't strength. It was a decision-making pattern, a kind of collective threat assessment that got sharper with every bad winter that killed the people who guessed wrong. Think of winter not as a season, but as 4 separate negotiations happening at once, each one testing a different kind of intelligence. The first negotiation was with the cold itself, and the breakthrough wasn't discovering fire. Fire is obvious, and fire is also useless the second you step away from it to do literally anything else. The real breakthrough was realizing that warmth had to travel with the body, not wait by a flame for it to come home. That single insight is the difference between draping an animal hide over your shoulders, which looks like protection but leaves you exposed at every seam, every gap, every gust, and engineering a garment. Cutting hide into shape panels, sealing a pocket of warm air directly against skin. To do that, you need something most people never think about as a survival tool, a needle. Not a stick, not a thorn, an eye needle ground down from bone to a fine point, then bored through with a hole small enough to thread and strong enough not to snap. Finds of these tools stretch back over 40,000 years, and every one of them represents a person who understood a problem invisible to the eye. That a body loses heat through its openings, and those openings can be closed by design. Without that needle, there is no population walking into a Siberian winter and walking back out again in spring. The second negotiation was with the night itself, not the cold of it, but the absence of shelter. Caves get all the credit here, and caves did matter, but caves are rare, and a good one was usually already claimed. Most groups facing winter had no cave. They had to build the outcome instead of finding it. In parts of what is now Ukraine, at a site called Mezirik, archaeologists found the remains of dome-shaped homes built roughly 15,000 years ago in a landscape with almost no timber and almost no stone, so the builders used the only abundant material the land offered them. The skeletal remains of dozens of mammoths, stacked and interlocked into load-bearing walls, jawbones layered like shingles, tusks arched over doorways as structural beams. This wasn't improvisation. It was engineering under total resource scarcity, and it demanded a kind of forward planning that has nothing to do with brute survival instinct and everything to do with problem solving. Every gap between those bones was a place the wind could get in, so people packed them, with hide, with turf, in some cases with snow itself, since a dense layer of packed snow traps air and air holds heat. The shelter wasn't 4 walls. It was a sealed system, refined gap by gap, until the wind ran out of paths inside. The third negotiation was with hunger, and this is the one that turns survival into pure arithmetic. In winter, the land stops producing. No new plants, no new prey wandering by. Whatever a group needed to eat for the next several months had to already exist somewhere, stored, before the first snow fell. This is where ancient people developed something close to an early logistic system. Meat sliced thin and dried in sun or low smoke, stripped of the moisture that would otherwise let it rot. Frozen ground used as a natural cold store, kills buried deep in the permafrost where the season trying to kill you became the thing preserving your food instead. And above all, fat rendered down and combined with dried meat into a dense, portable, calorie-heavy ration. Because in a season this demanding, lean meat alone isn't enough fuel to keep a human body burning through the cold. Every one of these choices required someone to calculate, in advance, exactly how much a group would need before they'd know for certain whether they'd guessed right. And the fourth negotiation was the strangest one, because it wasn't with the body at all. It was with the mind. Go far enough north in winter doesn't just bring cold, it brings darkness. Sometimes only a handful of usable daylight hours, followed by 15, 16 hours of black, cold night, with nowhere to go and nothing to hunt. That kind of confinement, the same faces, the same fire, night after night after night, is the kind of pressure that can hollow a person out even when the body itself is safe and fed. But this is exactly where something remarkable happened. Those long nights weren't wasted. They became workshop hours. Tools repaired, points reshaped, cordage twisted, clothing mended for what remained of the season. They became something more than that. Around the fire, in the dark, is where the older members of a group passed everything they knew to the younger ones, where stories got retold until they became permanent. In 2014, researcher Polly Wiesner studied conversation patterns among the Juhansi and the Kalahari and found that once night fell, talk shifted dramatically away from practical matters and towards stories, songs, and shared meaning. Firelight itself seemed to change what people were willing to say to each other. That pattern, huddled together, trading knowledge in the dark to survive the isolation, may be one of the very roots of human culture itself. So here's the uncomfortable thought hiding inside all of this. That low hum of unease you feel when the days shorten isn't irrational. It's the last surviving trace of a negotiation your ancestors had to win, over and over, for hundreds of thousands of years, with no guarantee of success. Every technology that let humans spread across every climate on this planet, the fitted clothing, the engineered shelter, the food storage, even the earliest threads of shared culture, was forged specifically because winter refused to be reasoned with. It only respected preparation. And now look at what's left of that negotiation in you. You feel a flicker of dread as the light fades earlier, and you don't know why, because you've never once had to calculate whether you stored enough to see spring. You inherited the alarm system. You just never had to use it for its original purpose. 100,000 winters of people who got the answer right, so that the ones who came after them never had to guess.